G'day guys and welcome, my name's Michael and I am the Dead Aussie Gamer, here to share with you my tips, tricks, ideas and strategies for playing and running tabletop role-playing games. Today we are doing another class spotlight, looking at the Ranger. Now these guys are absolutely incredible. Not only are they skilled in combat, but they're a vital role in any adventuring party that is out and journeying in the world of the GM's narrative. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to cover here with the Ranger, and the first thing I want to talk about is just mechanics, okay? After which we're going to go into a little bit about how to play them, and then some of the role-playing elements that you can use to really narrow down and hone in and polish your Ranger when you get to playing one. So the first thing is we're going to be looking mechanically. Now, Rangers are a combat class for the most part. A lot of people kind of put them on the back burner because, well, compared to a barbarian or a fighter, the Rangers don't really keep up too well. This, however, I feel is a misnomer. This isn't something that is necessarily the case anywhere you find it. Sure, a barbarian has a lot more defense and a lot more attack. A fighter obviously can use a lot more skills and abilities tied to their weapons and armor. But a Ranger has something very unique, and that's combat control. Rangers for me are a tactical combat class. Unlike the fighter and the barbarian who just rush into combat and go for broke until the thing's dead, a Ranger is someone who adapts, not just to the creature that they're fighting, but to the environment they're fighting in. With their series of skills, powers, and abilities that tap into the natural world, a Ranger opens up combat to a whole new way of control. With the assistance of an animal companion or skills and powers that channel animal energy into your body, a Ranger is capable of being able to move in and out of combat swiftly and efficiently, offering support to a fighter class or a barbarian class, or really any other kind of combat character. One thing I always tell people is, look, whenever you look at a Ranger, don't look at it as what you do. Never take that attitude. It is never about what you do in a single round. It is about what you do with the team. What are you guys capable of? Sure, on your turn, maybe you miss. That's fine. However, if the next person hits because you happen to be flanking with them, then you've contributed, you've helped, and you have been a major part of what has done damage to the creature. So keep those things in mind while playing a Ranger, and I find that, at least for me, I have a way better time with them. In addition, I find that they're also very useful for using, I suppose, the combat maneuver side of things. You have characters who specialize in tripping or grappling or throwing dirt in people's eyes. Rangers can step into that field without too many penalties. Mostly because they often put themselves in positions where they can seize an advantage quickly based on their skills and abilities that enhance their skills in terrain, but also because, well, it means not only are you enhancing your own abilities, you're also enhancing the abilities of the rest of the group, therefore increasing the value of you in the team. So that's mechanically. That I just wanted to get that out there because I know a lot of people is gonna, people say in the comments and stuff like that, oh, but Rangers are terrible. Don't tell me that Rangers can be useful. I want to just play a fighter. Yeah, okay, play a fighter. That's fine, but don't neglect the Ranger. The Ranger's cool. He's cool. He's my boy. All right. So where do we go from here? Rangers. The other thing a Ranger for me, what they represent, is what I call a survivalist role. Now you have your combat classes, you have your healers, you have your spellcasters, your support characters and all of that. But a survivalist has a very unique role in the group. They focus on PvE, or player versus environment. They focus on the journey that the group is going to take and how best to take that journey. For example, a Ranger might know a safe path up and through a mountain. A Ranger might understand what exactly to expect in terms of wild animals or dangerous plants that might lie ahead. These skills and abilities make them unique in the sense that they can protect the group from encounters before they even occur, and that is where their strength lies. Now, if you're a GM and you have a Ranger at your table, bear that in mind. Don't be one of those GMs who sort of say, well, I've set up an ambush. It says ambush here on my sheet. You can make a perception check, but look, there's an ambush, and now the ambush springs. You got to make sure that there's a tangible benefit because, yeah, don't get to that habit where it's like, oh, well, yeah, he just made the perception check, he's fine. Rangers are survivalists. They're supposed to be able to warn the group about these sorts of things. So that's what I love about them, the survival element, the ability to really know and understand the world around them. When we build our ranger for the first time, I always recommend decide a terrain. Pick a place that you're from and focus on that as the central point of what you are skilled with. Are you a desert ranger? If so, then maybe temperature is something your character focuses on. Looking at the climate and realizing, actually, you know what, there looks like a cold front is coming in. We might want to find shelter very soon. Or are you someone who comes in from the deep woods and are used to magical creatures and beasts? Do you follow tracks really well? Or do you even speak with certain plants and animals? Find that hook, find that piece that will drag out that survival element to your character, and I guarantee your ranger is going to improve tenfold when you play them. Alright, so we've talked a bit about the mechanics, we've talked a little bit about, where we should be starting with our ranger. Now let's take a look at our animal companion. Now rangers often do travel with an animal companion, although there are options to not travel with one, and those are perfectly fine. We'll come back to that. When traveling with an animal companion, it's important to remember that your character is the primary character. It's the person in charge. Don't build a character around the animal doing 90% of the work. Work in tandem with your pet. Work in tandem with this companion so that it is able to achieve more and support the group in the same way your character does. A great example is if you have a character with a companion that has the scent ability. Having that character run at the front of the group means that your animal companion can act as an early warning system for ambushes or threats simply because it has extraordinary senses that none of your other players have. That in itself is fantastic. Do you have a problem with invisible creatures? Are you struggling to try and make your perception checks to identify someone moving in the bushes? Well, a bird character, for example, a bird companion, often have higher perception checks. Having them be able to identify where something is, swoop down and screech in a square, instantly changes the dynamic of a fight. And all you need to do is just remember that it's to work with you, to work with yourself with these animal companions. And of course, don't forget to give them characters as well. The relationship between a ranger and their companion is a beautiful thing. It's something you want to build, something you want to nurture. Don't go the way of the wizard and its familiar. Don't forget it's there until you need it. Give it a name. Take those quiet moments where you take it for walks. You pat it. You feed it something delicious. When I run an animal companion, I like to role play it in like sort of a non-combat scenario. So I might have the big jaguar that is trailing around the ranger sort of curl up by the fire and sort of growl every once in a while happily as it's warm and content. On the other hand, I might also have it sneak up and steal someone's chicken and then run off with it and climb up a tree. Little things like that make a animal companion a lot more tangible, a lot more real, and a kind of a valid point in the group. It's so terrible when you've got an animal companion and it just doesn't feel like a member of the group. It also means that you as a GM can use it as a plot point. You can injure it, you can kill it, and that'll be the fastest way to make your PCs absolutely hate someone. Definitely done that before. Definitely regretted it because they went after that dude with a vengeance and they did not let him die. That was a whole thing. All right. So yeah, animal companions, fantastic. I love them. They're great. Rangers get them. Yay. All right. Now, how do we go about portraying our ranger? One of the common things we see with a survivalist character, someone who knows their way around the place, someone who understands the dangers that lurk in society and the environment, is that they tend to be, I suppose, jaded and skeptical because they expect danger around every corner. They expect that when they go this way, something terrible is going to happen. They expect if they go that way, something is going to jump out and maul them. Playing a moody character is quite tricky, and it's one that will always end up pushing you to the back of the group. People don't really like interacting with the moody characters, and for the love of all things Gygax, don't make a lone wandering ranger who's traveling with a group. That's just don't do it. Just don't do it. There's no good way to do it. Instead, have your character be someone who is that way but doesn't want to be. I feel like that's the strongest way to play rangers who are skeptical. You are indeed worried about this thing happening. You are worried about going into this cave because of what might be in there. At the same time, you have faith. You believe in your group. Despite your better judgment, despite those knowledges that you make, you know that your group is filled with people that you can rely on, and that trust overrides that fear or that kind of over caution. Also, by the way, yes, talking to your companion doesn't count as interacting with the party. Even though I just said, yes, the companion should be a part of the party, it also means you should interact with everyone as well. So, that being said, yes, playing a moody character, playing a jaded character is 90% of the time what you're going to end up with playing a survivalist. If, however, you do happen to go a different way, playing someone knowledgeable who is simply oblivious to danger is kind of fun as well. You can easily know that this poison ivy is in fact a deadly plant and all of this sort of stuff. It won't stop you from necessarily clumsily picking it up and saying, oh, it is poison ivy. It causes a great irritation and itching when made physical contact with. Yeah. Oh. Ooh. Yeah. No matter. I know a cure. I know a cure. That's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. As long as I don't, sort of start touching more and more of myself as I go along and so on and so forth. You can play characters like that. They're fun. They're exciting. You don't need to necessarily be a ranger who's on point, as it were. You could easily be a ranger who sort of triggers these things or brings them to light through comedy of errors, I guess. All right. The final thing I want to share with you guys is a story of a successful ranger and a story of an unsuccessful ranger. Let's start with the story of the unsuccessful ranger. This player had played a ranger for a while, and he was an Arctic. No, that wasn't a ranger. That was a druid. It was a survivalist. Let's call it that. He was an Arctic druid, and we're playing a campaign that was supposed to be set in the Winterlands. Naturally, our group, filled with scholars and warriors and what have you, sought out the help of a druid, someone who would know his way around the Icelands. So him and his bear companion helped us travel. We left on the first day, and we asked, well, it's really hard to travel through snow. Shouldn't we have, snowshoes or something? Druid turns around and goes, yeah, we should. He turns back. We go back a half day. We get some shoes. All right, let's go out. We go out. All right, guys, now be careful. Hypothermia might set in as we travel. We need to be really careful of it. As soon as we set out, the first couple of hours, the druid catches hypothermia. We stop to cure him and all of that sort of stuff, eventually overcoming it. He then proceeded to not detect any traps, not look out for anything in particular. I feel like at some point or another, he ended up getting us hit by a giant log. Somebody fell into a lake and almost drowned. It was comedy of errors is an understatement. We just failed everything involving survival in the Winterlands that this guy was literally being paid to do. Eventually, we ended up having to part ways with that character because we came across a large bear, a polar bear, in fact. And he intended to make a handle animal check in order to try and coax the bear to simply shoo away from our small camp. So he rolls a natural 1, walks straight up to this bear, bashes it on the nose, and says, "Go on, get!" Well, you can kind of imagine how that went. Did not go well, and I think most of the group was either killed, injured, or were never seen again. So that was the example of the bad druid. What did this guy do wrong? Honestly, the only thing he did wrong was not ask questions. There were a lot of times and a lot of situations where simply asking for information about the environment around you can save you from a lot of pain and anguish. Sometimes even not dealing with a scenario is the correct response. Look, there is a 60-foot gorge. How do we get across it? Maybe we should keep traveling. Maybe there's something further up ahead. As a GM, there might not be something further up ahead. But at least if your players explore that avenue, it gives you a chance to go, okay, well, you know what? They don't want to really jump across, even though I've got a whole encounter for them to do that, whole encounter for them to climb down and climb back up. All right, let's put another encounter in. There's a rickety bridge that they're unsure of. It opens up avenues and it helps the GM interact with the world and the players interact with that world as well. The second example is a great example of a good ranger, and this was played by one of my my players who I think I did an online game with this guy. And it was a fantastic example because I'd honestly never thought of this as a strategy. But it was a bandit battle. The whole group of bandits had set up a blockade, and they were doing the usual shakedown for money thing. And the group shows up, and they get into a fight. Naturally, the fight kind of goes in the favor of the GM, which is me, and my bandits were just murdering and absolutely killing them. They were all beaten and bludgeoned. And the ranger turns around to me and says, "What time of day is it?" And I said, 6 o'clock. And he goes, no, in game. And I said, oh, okay. Well, let's say it's sunset. You know, you guys have been traveling for most of the day. I'd say it's about maybe 6 o'clock-ish or 5:30-ish, you know. And he's like, okay, cool. When's the sun setting? And I said, couple minutes. He's like, okay, cool. I throw a smoke grenade down, and I grab hold of my friends, and I make my way into the bushes. And I drop them in, like, various places. I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, fine, you do that. They chase after you. It's like, okay, cool. He then makes a stealth check. The paladin doesn't. The paladin ends up running for a little bit longer. But after a couple of minutes, like, he sort of says, okay, I'm going to stealth, and I'm just going to stay in stealth. I'm like, okay, cool. And everyone's done the same thing. Oh, okay, fair enough. Perception checks. I can't find you. And a couple of minutes pass, and it's like, is it sunset yet? Oh, yeah, it's sunset. Well, they don't have dark vision, so they can't actually see us. And they need to make this huge check in order to find us. And I was like, well, fair play. It seems as though you have indeed defeated these guys because they literally cannot find you. They have no way of tracking you. They have no means of finding you in the middle of the night. And they don't intend to really chase you down for that amount of gold. And they just leave. If they'd kept fighting, they definitely would have died. But the ranger, through simply understanding what time of day it was able to turn around the whole battle. Had they tried to hide in broad daylight, definitely wouldn't have worked because, they would have been chased around and shot in the back and all these other things. But because he kind of introduced that idea, because he'd said, well, what time of day it is or how close is it to sunset, I latched onto that as a GM. I kind of went, all right, I see what he's trying to do. Let's make that happen because that's exciting, that's cool, that's engaging, that's fun. So when you're a GM for a ranger, make sure that they can get those rewards. They enjoy those things, and that'll encourage your player to actually keep playing characters like the ranger who are both skill heavy and more combat technical than, say, some of your other classes. Alright guys, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Go check us out on all the social medias. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Come say hi on Discord because we love catching up with you guys and obviously getting some ideas for videos that you would want. If you want to support Dead Aussie Gamer, then head on over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/DeadAussieGamer. And, even a $2 donation really does help go. It goes so far and so wide. We also have some, acting videos on there as well, including some NPCs that I'll be releasing. And of course, if you want to join one of my Twitch games, then we've still got a couple of seats available for that. Alright guys, till next time, and of course, till your next game, make sure that you game hard or die trying. See you later.